Hello YouTube. Robert Alvarez, the Psychic Witch, also known as Mr. Lighting in a Fan. And here we are at the end of the Llewellyn's 2025 Tarot Calendar. So I'm going to show you the front of this calendar for the last time. And I'm going to show you the back of the calendar for the last time. As I have mentioned in my videos, in my YouTube videos, when my schedule is especially abundantly full, I don't get to do videos as quickly as I would prefer. And I do not mind telling you that I would have much preferred to have done this video in mid-November. But it seemed like every other weekend I was booked and blessed, which is why I stopped calling myself Mr. Prosperity, and now I call myself Mr. Booked and Blessed. So, and the next thing I know, it's like a public venue, a market, an event, another event, back-to-back readings, back-to-back clients, new clients, old clients, not so new clients, not so old clients. So, yeah. But anyway, we have the Ace of Swords from the Good Fortune Tarot, which was written by the Barbara Moore and illustrated by Jessica Roux, although I'm trying to pronounce it in accurate French. We have a spread for the year's end. We have dive into symbolism, and we have the symbol of the crown on an owl. So, the Ace of Swords is the card of a clear mind open to many possibilities. The wise owl cuts away the dead branches and all that does not serve, clearing a convenient path before us. I've always felt that the Ace of Swords is the penultimate swords card that represents triumph over victory. Triumph and victory over one's own power, not triumph over victory. If anything, triumph over failure and defeat. But I absolutely find it a card to be, you did it, kid. You made it. You came out alive, and now you can go forth and prosper. I'm mixing my TV sayings. That should be a cardinal sin, but I don't think it is. And of course, I love talking about the aces specifically with regards to their changes of seasons. So traditionally, the Ace of Swords corresponds to the date of the autumnal equinox, which astrologically is the date when the sun enters Libra. But of course, that's for those of us in the northern hemisphere, because in the southern hemisphere, the date of the autumnal equinox is the date of their vernal equinox, their first day of spring. And of course, if you want to get really technical, there are some people who associate the fire signs with the suit of swords. I find that to be a very Wiccan pagan thing. In a lot of Wiccan and pagan oriented tarot decks, swords correspond to the element of fire and wands to the element of air. For me, it's swords air, wands fire, but I digress. So, let's talk about the crown first. Crowns speak of personal sovereignty, reminding us that ultimately we have agency to make choices for our highest good, even if they are difficult. Choose to rule rather than be governed by the whims of others. And of course, I cannot help but talk about the crown chakra, which rests on the inside top of the head, traditionally. And of course, we have owls, which represent so many different things. In the First Nation or Native American cosmology, owls represent deception, but in other symbol systems, it represents wisdom, seeing in the night, nocturnal activity. In fact, it just so happens that owls are my favorite raptors because They're primarily nocturnal. Eagles and falcons are primarily diurnal, meaning they're at most active or more active during the day. But owls tend to be more active during the night. And if you look, you will see a nighttime scene in the background of the card, which makes perfect sense. Dive into the symbolism. The long nights of winter are ideal for reflection and journaling. I would also add a waning moon phase, from the night of the full moon to the night of the dark moon, which is the night before the new moon. Consider turning over just one card per night to assemble the spread over time, like an advent calendar. The above spread will give you plenty to chew on, so get out that fancy journal you have been saving and really let yourself dive into the symbolism of each card and all you have been through in the past year. The intention here is not to beat yourself up about what is unfinished. We are not perfect people moving through a perfect world. The goal is to find a way to begin a new year in joy. Now, I will say that for several years, I have found that the new year, for me anyway, and for a few other people, including people who not only subscribe to my YouTube channel, but people who also avail themselves of my psychic services, and that is that the new year begins on the date of the vernal equinox, which this year is March 20th. I believe that is, in 2026 is March 20th, which I believe is a Friday. But I will also say that the past 2 months, I've been feeling like the end of 2025 is the end of 2025, meaning the conclusion of that calendar year. And it's strange for me because, again, systematically and historically, especially the last decade or so, I find that for me, the old year ends the day before the vernal equinox. But this year, it's been like, what do I want to finish up? What do I feel this urgent need to finish up before the conclusion of 2025? So with that being said, we have a spread for the year's end. The old year wanes and a new one dawns before us. The excitement for a brand new beginning can be tainted by the sense that we still have unfinished business lingering in our lives. To truly give yourself a clean slate, this spread helps you examine what you can do during this very liminal time to address any unresolved issues and bring them into a satisfying completion so that you can unburden your soul and open yourself up to new wonders and blessings in the new year. After all, it's hard to plant new seeds when the old harvest hasn't been completely taken in. Well said, Mr. Harrington, or rather well written, Mr. Harrington. And I am using the Soul Cats Tarot, written by Leeza Robertson and illustrated by Adam Oehlers. This is definitely one of my personal favorite cat-themed tarot decks. And it is definitely one that brings me a lot of joy. And of course, I have a beautiful tarot pouch, also published by Llewellyn, also produced by Llewellyn. And definitely, it's so appropriate because Bastet is the mother of all cats. So I'm going to put these to the side. Okay, that was not supposed to happen. And I have a thing about stuff falling on the floor. And in case you haven't noticed, we're definitely doing the Yule Tree videos. Okay, so I'm going to give the deck a shuffle. And I call upon the spirits. And I ask that everyone who watches this video receive clarity and illumination, blessings and peace, prosperity and wholeness, healing and transformation from the casting of these cards. May everything that is revealed and everything that is said through me
be accurate and effective to the best of my ability.
And may it absolutely help everybody watching this video move into their next step forward. And yes, I am going to look at the card that just jumped out. And that is, all right, I'm going to put this to the side. One moment, please. Had a sip of my coffee. Three of Swords. So, to all of you in YouTube land, say goodbye to your lingering heartbreak. Say goodbye to your lingering heart dis-ease. Say goodbye to the chains around your heart. And it's interesting because by the time you watch this video, it will already be 2026. One more shuffle. One more cut. Okay. A spread for the year's end. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I will see if Drake can do a numbering on each of the cards in the video. We'll see if we can make that happen. Okay, card number 1, an important goal or issue from the past year that has not been completed. And that is 5 of Pentacles. How many of you are still holding on to poverty consciousness? How many of you are still resisting welcoming prosperity consciousness? And I'm also going to add, one of the things that I found to be both empowering and liberating is looking upon the divine, or as I call her, the great goddess, as the one and true and only source of my financial supply. I don't look at anything or anyone else. I have a life partner. My life partner receives money. He pays for certain things. But if, let's say, for the sake of argument, goddess forbid, he died or he left and he decided he wanted nothing more to do with me, I would still need to have faith in the great goddess to provide for me and mine. And I'm also going to say that even though there are things that I receive from other people, like money in exchange for my psychic services, monies that I receive for things that I do that bring me money that may not necessarily be psychic related or magical related, monies that I receive as gifts for the holidays, for my birthday, what have you, monies that I'm owed from past jobs that I've had, I still look upon the great goddess as the one and true and only source of my financial supply. So I invite all of you to begin welcoming prosperity consciousness in 2026 and begin letting go of poverty consciousness. And it is no coincidence that if you look at the year astrologically, or rather numerologically, if you look at the calendar year 2026 numerologically, you get 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 6 equals 10. 10 is 1 and 0. 1 plus 0 equals 1. So the tarot card of the year, technically, is the Magician card. And the teacher card is the Wheel of Fortune. So I invite you to begin using your magic, or if you prefer, using your energy, to bring you into a state of prosperity consciousness, to bring you into a state of financial supply. And the Wheel of Fortune card as the teacher card is a reminder that the wheel turns. The wheel only moves forward. Yes, some can argue it can move backward, but it's very interesting to note that in ancient times, chariots could not move backwards. They could move forward, around, but they could not move backwards. They could not do that. They didn't have that ingenuity, if you will, or that ability, that feasibility to move backwards. Probably because of the horses. But still, that's very symbolic. So no matter what, the universe through the tarot is saying you must continue moving forward. You cannot move backwards. And I invite all of you in YouTube land to make sure that you are continuing to move forwards and not move backwards or not slide back. At least not continue sliding back. Card number 2. What events or forces opposed you in pursuing this goal? And yes, for some of you this goal is saving money, so that's something else to consider as well. It is the King of Swords. Your mind, your mind, your mind, your mind. Hello, Durga. Look at this cute kitty in the video. And of course, Drake, more commonly known as my awesome audio-visual person for my YouTube videos, is going to make sure that we get Durga in the videos. Isn't that right? No, I love you. You got to be in the videos. No, she is not liking being in the videos. And yet she came here, did she not? You see this? This is how she revolts. And consider your reading blessed by the kitties. Okay. And I love how you're just like doing whatever you want, as usual. All right. So, seriously, your mind. The mind undoes. The mind can do, but the mind can also undo. So, for those of us who live in the United States, there's been a lot going on. There's been a lot that we've been dealing with. And I'm sure people are dealing with a lot of stuff in other countries as well. Palestine, the Sudan, I could go on and on and on. But because I only live in the United States, I can only speak to what I have experienced personally, as well as what others who I know or who I've heard of who live in the United States have experienced as well. And I do not mind telling you that having the pedo-in-chief as a wannabe dictator in a country that's never been set up for kings or dictators has been wild, to say the least. So I'm not going to say think positive. I'm not going to say force yourself to think positive. What I am going to say is begin committing yourself, or rather committing yourselves to insisting that you bring as much hope, as much joy, as much success into your lives. I will tell you a quick story. I have a wonderful friend who who used to avail herself from time to time of my metaphysical classes, and who has had readings with me on numerous occasions. And I will tell you that during COVID-19, she was thriving. She was doing well. She was receiving a lot of money. She was not hurting anybody in the process. And there was somebody who was outraged that she was doing so well and that she was so happy because COVID-19 was a pandemic. And the number of people who had already died because of COVID-19 was already in the 100,000s. And I remember feeling very angry at this person who I don't even know, who I never met, because Well, why should somebody remain in suffering? Just because they're doing well, that doesn't mean they have to pretend that they're suffering. And even now, even after all these years later, I really, really, really stand by that joy is an act of resistance. Success is an act of resistance. And allowing yourselves, and I'm going to say giving yourselves permission to be prosperous, to be fulfilled, to be happy, to be successful, to be satisfied, that's totally okay. And yes, I'm a little biased when I say that because I've been miserable in my life. I've been a bitter bitch. I spent more than a decade being a bitter bitch. And I could never fully be happy for somebody else because I was miserable. And I never allowed myself to really dive deep into why I was miserable and why I was a bitter bitch. And until I did, nothing improved in my life. And I will tell you, the fact that I am 55 going on 56 makes me immensely happy. It really does. I would not pay anything or anyone, nor would I accept any amount of money to be 20 again. Fuck that bullshit. Excuse me, fuck that Trump shit. Fuck that Trump shit, okay? No. You don't even your country does not have enough money in their federal banks to pay me to want to be 20 again. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Okay. Card number 3, your present state. The Fool. See, the Fool gets a bad rap, okay? Yeah, it sounds like you dumbass fool. But look, the Fool is about new beginnings. It is about the start of a new journey. And the traditional image of the Fool depicts this fool walking off a cliff. Do you know why the Fool walks off the cliff? Because the Fool has so much faith in the divine that the Fool knows it's going to be fine. The Fool's going to be okay. And guess what? In the allegory of the Fool's journey, when the Fool falls off the cliff, walks off the cliff and goes back to terra firma, solid ground, the Fool becomes the magician. Isn't that right? As my primary feline familiar just jumps on the table. Yes. So the Fool, once back on solid ground, transforms into the magician. 2026's card of the year. And then, scorch in the eye. She's the only one that lets me clean her eyes, which I am forever thankful, because she knows it makes her prettier. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I know I gotta trim my claws. I know. We should trim your claws, but you don't extend them as much, which makes me happy. So allow yourself to start a new beginning. Allow yourself to start a new journey in your life. Allow yourselves to start something new, no matter what you do or do not have at your disposal, no matter who or who is not in your life right now. It is one thing that I find is so important, and that is to live your life to the fullest. No matter who is or is not, no matter what is or is not, or what is not in your life. Allow yourself to use what is available to you now, to use the resources that are available to you now, to create this new life, this new start, this new beginning, this new journey. Card number 4, what will help you begin the new year fresh? So what will help all of you in YouTube land begin 2026 fresh? The 10 of Swords. Laying down your sword and shield and studying war no more. Oh my God, stop the presses. Robert Alvarez, the psychic witch, the happily recovered Catholic, the moon magic witch, just quoted scripture. Film at 11. No, but seriously, who is this war with whom is this war you're waging? Because, yes, some of you absolutely have legitimate grievances And there's nothing wrong with that. Not for 1 second. But some of you, actually a lot of you, are waging wars against yourselves. Why? And that's a legitimate question. Why? And by the way, you don't ever have to answer that question to me. But you might want to answer that question to yourself. Like, why are you waging wars against yourself? Why are you denying yourself, forbidding yourselves the opportunity to be fulfilled, to be successful, to be peaceful, to have so much joy, so many riches, so many successes in your life and in your worlds? And it is interesting to note that I have often said that the Ten of Swords is the true death card. So is somebody's death still haunting you? And if so, are you going to give that person's death a proper funeral for yourself so that you can have... I don't believe that people ever have true closure. That's just a me thing. But enough closure that you can, or enough of an illusion of closure so that you can move forward. Is there somebody that you have not given yourself permission to properly mourn? Is there somebody for whom you have not allowed yourself to fully mourn? And the mourning may not even have to do with somebody's death. You know, anything that ends deserves its own mourning, its own funeral. Are you now a divorcee? Are you now becoming divorced? Are you now no longer in a romantic relationship that was very fulfilling for you, that was very satisfying for you, that was very prosperous for you, that was very exciting and enjoyable for you? Were you laid off? Were you fired? Were you ousted? Were you evicted? Whatever the case is, give yourselves permission to have that funeral for yourself, to give yourselves permission to finally mourn this ending, whether it was the ending of somebody's life because they died, or the ending of a marriage, or the ending of a romantic relationship, or the ending of a friendship that you treasured and cherished immensely, or the death of a beloved animal companion. You know, I've had 2 cats die in my life, and I will tell, as an adult, and I will tell you that it makes reading about somebody's deaths, dead animals, especially cats, very challenging for me, because I know that experience of having a beloved feline companion or feline familiar who's died. I find it to be immensely challenging. So I know that there are things that I still need to process. Even though these deaths occurred years ago, they still linger. And how or in what manner can you make these things happen? So card number 4, what will help you begin 2026 fresh? That was the Ten of Swords. Card number 5, how or in what manner can make this happen? Ace of Wands. You cannot make this shit up. Okay? You just can't make this shit up. Because the Ace of Wands traditionally corresponds to the vernal equinox, the date of the first day of spring. And it is also the date when the sun enters Aries. Now, of course, in the southern hemisphere, the vernal equinox is actually the autumnal equinox. The southern hemisphere's first day of autumn is the northern hemisphere's first day of spring. So, what are you going to do for yourself on the date of the vernal equinox? And I say this of course it's very interesting because the card that is featured in this calendar for December 2025 is the Ace of Swords, the card that I associate with the date of the autumnal equinox. And then we have the Ace of Wands, which represents the vernal equinox. So we are now in that in-between time, because the winter solstice was on Sunday, December 21st, 2025. So we are in that period between the autumnal equinox of 2025 and the vernal equinox of 2026. So let's imagine this Ace of Wands, the beautiful black cat, is a big-ass birthday candle. Because remember, not only is the vernal equinox the date when the sun enters Aries, the first sign in the Western astrological zodiac, it is also International Astrology Day. So it is the birth of a new zodiacal cycle. So I invite all of you on March 20th, 2026, to light a candle. I would say a red candle for new beginnings and new life force energy, but ultimately it can be whatever candle you want. If you want to associate that candle with a certain chakra, so be it. But absolutely set that intention for a 2026 that brings you all the peace, all the health, and all the plenty that may have escaped you or may have been lacking in 2025. And the final message card is the Chariot. How very interesting, because the Chariot card is astrologically aligned with the sun sign Cancer. And the seasonal change that occurs when the sun enters Cancer is the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere. So it's very interesting that that card showed up. So I absolutely feel, and of course, the Chariot is about moving forward, no matter what. It is such an honor and a pleasure to consult the Oracle and to cast the cards in my YouTube videos. I hope that this casting of the cards brought you a lot of insight and a lot of clarity and illumination, a lot of hope, and a lot of, I don't want to say motivation, but inspiration. And of course, if you absolutely want to avail yourselves of a private reading with yours truly, Robert Alvarez, the Psychic Witch, you can contact me via my email address, which will show up on the screen like magic. I never get tired of doing that. I'm serious. I never get tired of doing that. Isn't that right, Durga? And of course, I want to thank Llewellyn Publications for continuing to publish a tarot-themed annual, which, by the way, this is still the one and only tarot-themed annual published by Llewellyn Publications. They have different sun sign and moon sign and astrological and herbal and witchy annuals. But they do not have, and they even have other astrological annuals. But, you know, this is the one and only. And this is the only tarot calendar of its kind. Remember how many times I would say in the comments in previous videos, let me know about other tarot calendars out there. Nobody ever did. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to look for myself. And I found very little. I found one calendar that only ships in Australia. I found another calendar that, and both that calendar and another calendar only have art. They don't have articles, they don't have blurbs, they don't have spreads. So this really is the only tarot calendar of its kind. And I absolutely invite all of you in YouTube land and outside of YouTube land to spread the word about this calendar. I haven't even looked to see if the 2026 calendar, no, I already have the 2026 calendar. I haven't looked to see if the 2027 calendar is already in the works. If it is, I will include that link in the comments. Or rather in the description box, But as always, I also want to thank Charles Harrington for taking over writing the insight spreads and tips from the Barbara Moore. And I want to thank all of you who have already purchased this calendar, who have already spread the word about this calendar online and off. And if you have done a YouTube video about your calendar, about your copies of Llewellyn's Tower calendars, please include them in the comments. And if you have not done a YouTube video about your Tower calendars, about your Llewellyn Tower calendars, then by all means include the link where you've done it. Whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, whether it's TikTok, whether it's wherever, whatever, whoever, whatever, whyever. I look forward to watching them. Actually, that is one thing I need to make a priority in 2026. Finally, re-establishing TikTok, because I cannot find my original TikTok password, and it seems very complicated to get a password reset or whatever. So I don't know but that's a 2026 situation. As always, stay in tune with your intuition. Stay safe, stay well, stay hydrated, and stay tuned for the next video.